right off the bat, before talking about anything, I just want to say this could have been worse. This grueling sideways that we've been in with Bitcoin, it could have been worse. Going into the breakout of this upper trend line of this rising channel, we looked at this potential consolidation pattern, which was kind of this upper trend line resistance around 30,000, all the way extending that far out. This consolidation pattern that we were speculating about, it's smaller, right? This consolidation's happening. It's multi-week. It's boring. It's grueling, but it's smaller. We can get a visualization of that on the 6 hour. We're starting to finally get, I think, some structure here, especially as we step into a very big week, not just for crypto, but really for just the US economy and everything that's going on. Big for the US dollar, big for stock markets. So consolidation here on the 6 hour, I think we're getting very close to a move now as we approach this apex of the symmetrical triangle. Again, it's multi-week, this consolidation that's been happening, but I think it could have been worse as we were evaluating a potential larger kind of maybe ascending triangle type of deal. That didn't play out, but we're in this smaller consolidation approaching apex, and I think we're getting ready to move. I want to talk about Bitcoin to the upside and to the downside. Hit the subscribe, hit the like. Let's do this. To set the stage real quick, this is the week. It's April 12th, inflation data, CPI data coming out. What's interesting to me now, though, is when we start looking at Bitcoin charts, especially recently, we saw the fall of these banks, the volatility of it, and Bitcoin was making a move to the upside amidst all of that chaos. Normally, we would see opposite. So as Bitcoin right now is seeing support at the 20-day moving average, it is going to be extremely intriguing to see how far Bitcoin can take this bullish momentum. Can it diverge even from the narratives and even potentially negative headlines that stem from something like CPI data being released? One thing I just want to note, CPI data might actually be pretty decent this month or for last month. We use Truflation as this leading indicator for CPI data, meaning kind of a multi-month, a few months leading indicator. And you can just see if we go back January, February area, it's trending down. I know most recently on Truflation, we're actually starting to trend up a little bit. This is having a lot to do with, if we click on transport, the recent gas situation and oil situation from a geopolitical standpoint, kind of bringing that up in terms of the most recent data on Truflation charts. And this is 19.83% relative importance to the CPI data on Truflation. But this is now, right? So we want to kind of look, and this is just how I've been using this data. It's been very, I think, accurate and really helpful. We want to look a few months ago, and it was trending down. So that is to say, I think the CPI data coming out might not be that bad this time around. In a few months, we might be ticking up a little bit. That is to, that's for us to wait and see and find out. But maybe not that bad. What will the headlines be like surrounding that release in a couple of days on the 12th? That's something else to watch. But all the while, we have Bitcoin on the charts doing its thing. And that's the question. Is Bitcoin going to just, no matter what the CPI data is, no matter what the headlines, is it going to diverge? What could that bullish momentum look like? Let's look at that right now. Here is Bitcoin in that shorter term consolidation. It's kind of messy sideways, right? It was messy sideways back here. It's very similar actually in terms of setup, even with this dip back to the upside. We had kind of a similar thing, dip back to the upside, but we're getting a little bit more consolidation most recently. These swing highs, they're lower highs, but giving us a nice upper trend line. Now, if we take that nice upper trend line and we say, well, what's below us? It's this larger trend line, which is a more macro trend line of this rising channel that Bitcoin just broke out of. So here's the upper trend line. It's now the lower trend line of the consolidation Bitcoin is in. And then we have just this very nice pattern, I think, forming. Not perfect, right? We didn't get a perfect touch right here, but we got a nice wick. But just a symmetrical triangle. Let's just note right off the bat, and then we're going to look at the momentum for Bitcoin. It's in the bull's favor, in my opinion, when we start looking at the zoomed in, but we're going to check this out. But target to the upside, around $31,000 to $32,000. This could play into that larger term target if we go to the daily chart of $40,000 to the upside, the breakout out of this rising channel. So we could get a breakout of the short term to 31, 32, maybe come back and test this resistance area that we've been in right now. So come up, test the resistance sideways, and maybe continue to 40. So many different things can happen. That's a speculative setup To the downside, before we look at the momentum of Bitcoin right now, we have a target of around $24,000 to $25,000. That is important because once again, we go to the daily chart, the 50-day moving average is that first area of support. It wouldn't even be a surprise if Bitcoin fell to that area. What happens there? That's the target out of this pattern that's setting up right now. So that is something to consider to the downside. But Bitcoin right now, the momentum to the upside, let's look at that because on the 6-hour chart, and even as I do the video, I don't know how the 6-hour candle will close. I mean, these moves are, you see these wicks, these happen a lot, and then just boom, falls. That's something to keep in mind today as we watch this pattern. But if we look at the momentum now on Bitcoin, this is what I wanted to look at. Check out the RSI, slower moving momentum oscillator, a ton of room to the upside on the shorter term charts, on the shorter term moves. So if we look at what's happening though, in terms of Bitcoin, what happened in these previous moves? You know, Bitcoin consolidating right here and then falling, consolidating right here and then falling. Each time you can see Bitcoin just kind of failed in the momentum of it all, right? And then we just fell to oversold, fell to oversold. This time around, we're getting a completely different structure on the short-term consolidation and the short-term momentum of Bitcoin. And even right now in the 6-hour shorter term, it's actually starting to trend up. Momentum trending up. More significantly, if we go to the daily chart and we kind of do the same thing, we say, all right, let's look at the momentum oscillator, slower moving once again, and we're going to look at the faster moving stock RSI in a second. But let's look at the momentum here. And right now, even still, we've had this continued support right around 58 in the middle of the momentum oscillator. Ton of room for upside, not an overbought right now, with right now a trend up. Well, what happened in these previous falls, right, of consolidation? Right here and right here, Bitcoin was right here putting in a lower high in the momentum oscillator, number one, and then it was just breaking that support and just falling right as it was getting to this 20-day moving average. It was falling below this line, the 58. And then the same thing back here. It was just overbought. We got an overbought territory. There was bearish divergence, lower highs on the momentum oscillator at the 20-day moving average. It fell. Now we're at the 20-day moving average right here. And let me kind of open that up just so that you can see that. We're at the 20-day moving average, and Bitcoin's seeing support at the 20-day moving average, a little bit of a bounce even right now as I do the video. And at the same time, this move to the upside in the opposite direction from these previous consolidations, meaning not falling, right? But actually potential upswing. And while that's happening, and this is important, the stock RSI, quicker moving momentum oscillator, not always the most accurate or reliable, but certain times could give a really nice indication. I think now might be one of those times. You can see Bitcoin has been hanging out kind of in this oversold region, most recently on the daily, escaping oversold. If you just go back and you look at, well, when Bitcoin was really escaping oversold, what was happening? Bitcoin was making a nice momentum move to the upside, even these previous two times. So Bitcoin came down into oversold, but the price just relentless at that 20-day moving average in this consolidation, and now it's exiting. That could be a really big indicator, a really big clue that Bitcoin just might just diverge from everything, continue to the upside right now, another leg up. Now, we go to the weekly chart. I can't help but just continue to look at just this area back here coming out of the bear market in 2019 and the area right here, right? This sideways consolidation before a potential big leg up. We had the sideways consolidation, the big leg up, and that's a really big deal. That's more of a macro technical analysis that we could probably talk about in a separate video, what's going on there. But right now, this is everything going on. I would say at the end of the day, for me, I like when there becomes structure in the unknown, in the sideways, and the consolidation. I like when there's structure, but there's been no short-term confirmations just yet. Right now, even Bitcoin 28,592. It's still at this upper trend line. There's been no really breakout of this consolidation pattern, but this is the pattern I'm watching as we approach the apex. Target to the downside, once again, 24, 25,000. Target to the upside, 31, 32,000. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but we track it, we visualize it, and for me, that's why I do these charts, just so that I can be ready mentally, and be prepared. So everybody, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think is next for Bitcoin and crypto? Hit the subscribe, hit the like. I will see you in the next video. God bless.